It is the Martha Zoller Show. Normally, I like capitalistic ideas like this, but I don't think that she's going to have enough, quote, clapbacks that going to make any money for Democratic candidates. But hey, it's nice to see her try. Steve Moore is here with me right now, and capitalism isn't dead. They had a T-shirt with Scotty Scheffler's mugshot on it by the time he got back onto the golf course.
Isn't capitalism a wonderful
Capitalism
thing?
is great, isn't it? Anyway, how are you?
I don't think they ever got to the bottom of that, right? What really happened?
Charges are going to be dropped today. That's what I read. It hasn't happened yet, but bottom line is, it was a big misunderstanding. He didn't know there had been a pedestrian killed going into the club. That's why there was extra police there. He thought he was being waved past. He kept driving because he's a player. He thought he could keep driving. Yeah. It wasn't, he should have stopped when the police said stop, but it was dark, It was rainy, it was confusing, and
it was very early in the morning.
It was early in the morning. He cooperated, and he'll be fine. And he shot lights out. He didn't end up winning, but he shot a 66 that day. So, it was fine.
Pretty amazing. Well, it was what an exciting PGA, by the way.
Oh my gosh!
Watch that last hole, that last putt. It ringed around and went in.
It's so cool. Funny because I am so not a Bryson DeChambeau fan. I don't know why. I just don't like the guy, and so I was rooting against him. So I got what I wanted.
Yeah, well, it was an exciting golf tournament, and I know you guys know a lot about golf there in Georgia. So.
We do. So, look, we've got this now. The president keeps saying that was 9% in inflation when he came into office. Yeah. They just clearly can't do math. On that reason alone, they should not be in power anymore.
Yeah, I don't know if it's, there's two possibilities here, because everyone knows the inflation rate was not 9%, when Biden came into office. It was about 1.5%. I mean, everyone knows that by now. So there's only two explanations. One is that he's lying, and the second explanation is he just doesn't know. He's so out of it, he doesn't know. Neither of those are very good explanations, right? Neither of those are good reasons why Joe Biden should be reelected. And by the way, look, I've made gaffes. I've been in this business 30, 40 years. Sometimes I'll misstate a statistic and so on. But what's really troubling about this, he keeps saying it over and over. I mean, it's not just one time where he just made a statement, I've done that before when I misstated a number, but he keeps saying it.
Well, and
right?
He did it in Georgia yesterday, talking about our Senate Bill 202, that you can't get water in line or whatever it is. He just tells lies, and he continues to tell them because no one ever fact checks him. And I had a little back and forth with I do this panel program called the Georgia Gang, and I made the point. I said, look, you are always asking me to justify the things that Donald Trump says, yet you never want to be held responsible for what Joe Biden says. Good point. It's just, if you're going to ask me to justify what Donald Trump says, then you need to justify what Joe Biden says.
Yeah. Now, on this inflation issue, because it's important people understand what happened, because Georgia obviously is a critical state in this election. What happened was the inflation rate was very low during Trump's presidency. Throughout his presidency, I think it averaged about 2, maybe a little over 2%, which is right where the Federal Reserve wants it. And then when he left office, it was ranging between around 1.5%. And then when Biden came in, remember, you and I were talking, on the radio pretty consistently in that period when he first came in, and I said it, and you said it, and Larry Kudlow said it, and everyone said, look, if you do this, this is going to cause inflation to rise. And the Biden, no. They had all these Nobel Prizes. It's not going to cause inflation. Well, of course, inflation did rise to the highest level since Jimmy Carter was in office. And now what they're saying, now they're changing their story. They're saying, oh, well, that was baked in the cake because of Trump's policies. Well, wait a minute. You can't say our policies aren't going to cause inflation, and then the way they do cause inflation, you can't. Well, I guess it's a time-honored tradition to blame your predecessor for the problems, but I think everybody knows we didn't have an inflation problem during Trump, so it's a little rich to blame Trump.
The bottom line is a president is responsible from the day he takes the oath of office till the day he leaves. You can't bake into the cake whatever happened before or after. honestly, if Donald Trump had spent another $2 trillion on pandemic stuff, he might have had inflation on his watch too. But he didn't. And that's what you have to look at.
Yeah, and the thing is that it really is important for people to realize it didn't happen by accident. It really was a result of this massive spending spree. Now, look, Trump spent a lot of money during COVID too, so I think both parties are somewhat responsible for this. But the explosion of inflation didn't happen until Biden came in and added another 4 or 5 trillion. And incidentally, he's not done. That's the thing that people should be aware of. His campaign is saying, "Gosh, there was $2 trillion we wanted to spend, but those mean Republicans wouldn't let us spend the money." So he's got another, he's got another $2 trillion on the docket. In addition, he wants to raise the capital gains tax, double it. He wants to tax unrealized capital gains. He wants to raise the business tax. I mean, I have to say, people should pay attention to what Joe Biden is saying, folks. I mean, he's not like pretending like he's some kind of moderate who's going to unify. Remember, he said, "I'm going to unify the country. We're going to unite." No, he didn't. Name one thing that Joe Biden has done that has united the country. Seriously.
So how do you think that, I personally think that Michael Whatley's doing a very good job of trying to unite the Republican Party. I think that he's talking about the things that need to be talked about. And I think that the former president's team is a much more professional team. And they understand what they can't change about Donald Trump, because there's certain things that Donald Trump's going to be Donald Trump, right?
Right.
But they are handling all the other things in a much more professional way. And I'm really impressed with what I've seen.
Couldn't agree more. And as you know, I'm part of that team, a small part of the team, but I've been dealing with
come on, Joe McCutcheon says you're running everything.
Yeah. Well, Susie Weil, is fantastic. The rest of the team is fantastic. Jason Miller. You're right. They've run an incredibly great campaign, and no gaffes. And Trump, and by the way, Trump deserves a lot of credit himself. He's been good. I've always said on your show, there's a good Trump and a bad Trump. In the last 6-9 months, we've seen the good Trump. Now, there's one thing, and I've been meaning to say this to you because I really want your thoughts about it. You raised the question about uniting the party, and this may be a crazy idea. Okay, so I'm just throwing it out there. I want your and your listeners' response to this. If you really want to unite the party, are you ready for this? I think I would take Nikki Haley as the VP. I don't think Trump is going to do that.
And people are going to throw things at the window right now because I've said this. But
I know people get mad at me when I say it.
Oh my gosh, I agree with you because plenty of times 1 and 2s have gotten together. Granted, it's only 15% turning out for these primaries, but she's still pulling 15 to 18%.
Yeah. I think she got 25% recently in the race.
Yes.
I think it was in Michigan. I don't want to. Again, I don't want to be like Joe Biden. Don't quote me on that, but I think I'm right on that. But look, I don't think it's going to happen because I know Donald Trump very well. I consider him a friend and I admire him. But he everything is personal with him. So I don't think he can forgive Nikki Haley for some of the things that he said. But I do think. Hold on. Let me just say one other quick thing because this is important. It's a historical note. John F. Kennedy picked his greatest political rival as his running mate in LBJ. And they detested each other. But you know what? If Kennedy had not picked LBJ, Richard Nixon would have won the 1960 election. So Donald Trump, if you want to win the election, and by the way, it would also be a signal that Donald Trump is willing to reach out to people who don't always agree.
And he's going to need Republicans that didn't vote for him and some right-leaning Democrats to win.
That's exactly right. Yep. So I don't think it's likely to happen, but it's just
I don't think so either. Now I want to throw you a curveball here. Yeah. Javier Milei of Argentina, he is shaking things up big time with free market policies. What do you think of him?
Oh, so I mean, I've not met him personally, but I'm following very closely what's happening in Argentina. And by the way, Argentina should be a wake-up call to Americans. I mean, they had runaway, budget deficits. They huge amounts of government spending they couldn't afford. They socialized their economy, and they had, you think we got bad inflation with 9%? They had 200 comment. He's spending. He's dollar Argentina peso. He's slashing the bureaucracy. He's cutting taxes, and Argentina's on a comeback. And so I think he's become one of the heroes of the globe today, and he's showing, Argentina was in such a ditch, and it was once a very rich country. I think he's bringing it back. Now, it's still early. He's only been in office for about 6 months, but so far he's been fantastic, and the results are good.
Absolutely. Steve Moore, everybody should sign up for his Unleash Prosperity newsletter and follow them on Com for Prosperity on Twitter.
Yep.
It is great to follow. If you want to know free market stories, that's where you're going to get them. Steve Moore, thanks for being with me today.